Go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Set Yourself Free, a podcast that encourages you to be, do, and have all that God created you to be. And we are here today with Dr. Michele Sherwood, who is just a wealth of knowledge and such an encourager of having an optimal health and lifestyle. And she and her husband obviously are at Sherwood.tv, where there's huge supplement support, huge education support. You really need to go to Sherwood.tv to get educated and learn what they can do to help you live a lifestyle that is health and healing. And so thank you, Dr. Michele, for being here always. We're going in 'tis the season. We're into November and December, the holidays. What better time to talk about Make America Healthy Again, which is the platform that we are so blessed with that took place on Tuesday, and we have a lot to be grateful for. And that's one of them is get our country back in a better health state. So thank you, Dr. Michele. I appreciate you and all your time and energy and just heart to serve and make people healthy again.
Well, Katie, as always, it's always a pleasure to be with you. It's such a joy to just spread the good word, the good news, the healing words on how to help people. And as you know, our country had a great victory this last
Yeah.
week. And we were watching the television just last night. And one of the things that is moving kind of forward to make America great again is what we have been preaching and teaching for the majority of our lives, even as young athletes, as young entrepreneurs, and now in the healthcare field, almost 24 years. If you add our experience together, it's, pushing uh, 50, 60
15 years.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot, a lot. It's
which
a
is
lot of,
awesome.
it's a lot of passion for people. So
Yes.
in order to make America healthy again, one of the things Mark Hyman states is, of course, lifestyle has to start from the top down. We
Mm.
watch our leaders. We watch what our leaders do. And if our leaders are not living a healthy lifestyle, what's going to encourage anybody else to live a healthy lifestyle?
You need to be a walking, talking example, not just someone that's talking, but actually has proof. And obviously, you and Dr. Mark are definitely have been doing this since you were in the, like you said earlier, in your teens with all the athleticism that you guys have both participated in, and it's been a lifestyle for you since you were a teenager.
Oh, yeah. I forget that, back in 2005, I won the USA's in the physique heavyweight competition. That kind of dates me a little bit, but, it's
Oh,
always been in our blood to
right,
excel in these areas. And of course, we want to pass it on to people.
right.
So it was just very exciting to see, Dr. Mark Hyman there, and of course JFK, with the potential
Yeah,
to implement certain things into our healthcare system so that we do the change that's needed to make health a lifestyle. And one
yeah.
of the things that he kind of brought to the forefront is, we see all these big drugs out there, weight loss drugs, Ozempic, uh,
Hmm.
Wegovy,
Yeah.
Monjaro, et cetera, and otherwise, and they have great clinical indications for improving joint pain,
Mm.
metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia,
Wow.
thinking improves, uh, fibromyalgia, different conditions that just are long-term and lengthy have received benefit from these drugs. Now, in my clinical practice, I have seen blood work move in a positive direction
Mm.
more than I ever have in 24 years with the use
Wow.
of these drugs. That to say, at the end of the day, what these drugs do, of course, let me talk about the mechanism of action first, is number one, it's a satiety signal.
Mm.
So it's a signal to the brain to tell the brain, hey, I'm full. I don't need to keep eating.
Mm.
And the lack of satiety signal in part can be genetic. And of course, in part is behavioral. If you overeat and eat a lot of sugar, it's like the vicious cookie cycle. You're going to continue to want more sugar.
Right.
So those are mechanisms of action. Plus, at the cellular level, it helps to sensitize the body to the blood sugar insulin signaling, which helps metabolism improve. So a lot of things are moving in the forward direction correctly. And in lab, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing lipid values normalize. I'm seeing all
Wow.
the metabolic factors normalize. And in 24 years of practice, we've thrown all kinds of drugs at it. We've thrown, five, six drugs per patient with these chronic conditions, and things just really don't change. Their condition may be controlled, but we don't see the markers really 100% controlled. And now with this, we are. So at the end of the day, the root of the problem is what's at the end of our forks, what we're eating.
Mm,
What we're eating three times a day and two snacks, 365 days a year. That's a lot of medical decisions for any one person to make. And if it's all inflammatory, of course, it's going to spin our lab results and our markers out of control.
mm,
So that might be some place for us to get started using these drugs. But the statement was made is you don't need Ozempic, you don't need Wegovy, you don't need semaglutide, you don't need Manjaro. However, the mindset has to be strong enough.
mhm,
We have to have the behavioral change, not just today, but tomorrow into the future, 365 days a year. And of course, if we have a holiday or a Thanksgiving, meal, that's a choice day. It's not a cheat day. We're making a choice to step over to the left a little bit,
mm.
enjoy it, and then we get right back on track with our healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, and what a better time because I know that you have this incredible Kingdom Fuel and Kingdom Detox, which would be a great thing for people to know about and participate in either before Thanksgiving or in between Thanksgiving and Christmas because it's a 2-week program, correct?
It is a 2-week program, and we design it to be either before the holidays or after the holidays. That's how we do it in the clinic so that people can join us. We have, several hundred people that join us, on a quarterly basis to go through this. And we usually set it up around a holiday. So you're either moving into the holiday with a better mindset and a cleaner system. Oftentimes, you're going to want to have less choices that are off the rails than you would if you didn't detox before the holidays. Or if you do make more choices on the holidays, you can get right back on track, clean the system up, clear the liver out, free up the kidneys, dump out that metabolic toxic waste and, continue to stay on the healthy train.
So that's one thing that I'm going to be reminding you all that are listening is to definitely check out Sherwood.tv and look for their detox program for those 2 weeks. So that's coming up. So that'll be awesome as something to obviously prepare for going into this holiday season. But, you were talking also about, this Make America Healthy Again and what you and Dr. Mark have done, throughout your whole life. And I'm sure, people would obviously be encouraged to hear how this has worked for them or for you from you to them.
Well, oftentimes people will come into the clinic and they've failed multiple different resources. It might be their primary care times two or three. It might be a nutritionist, a dietitian. It might be just their personal trainer. It might be all of the above. And they come in totally discouraged and just not know where to start. So we, of course, take a very thorough intake history all the way really from, pre-conception if they understand or know that, because sometimes it's what mom was exposed to when they were in utero that may have disrupted their metabolic biome. All the way through their young years, how many antibiotics they were on, what happens in their teen years, what about the stressors? We know that young childhood adverse experiences really affects
Mm.
the health and the lifestyle of an individual going forward with social behaviors and choices. So we're looking at all of those things from where they started from to where they are in real time, and we're coming up with a personalized plan. And that personalized plan, of course, oftentimes can involve what I call the Mercedes-Benz of labs. We're looking in between the cracks at all the players, metabolic players. We're looking at all the different hormones. We're looking at all the different chemistries, the electrolytes, what's happening with your bone marrow and the blood counts, just the whole nine yards. And then we can expand that into we love genetics. I think that every baby born should come out of the womb having their I call them functional genetics, the things that we can do something about. So if you know what you're dealing with and there's a potential for a weakness there, to get on board and support that weakness or avoid that weakness. A lot of people have issues with gluten. A lot of people have issues with dairy. They're born that way.
Mm.
And they have a lifetime of gut disruption and allergies and skin rashes and, you know, you name it. The list goes on, joint pains, and it's
Right.
coming from the barragement of the toxic load and the toxic burden that they're just not able to clear or eliminate because they're still taking it in every day. So the
Mm.
genetics give us a great uh, navigational piece into the person's individualized needs
Right.
for the long term. And those genes, you only have to run them once because, your genes don't change.
Right. Right. So it gives you a pathway to success, knowing what you're obviously dealing with at the genetic baseline.
Exactly. And we were talking about detox. One of the pathways is detox. There
Mhm.
are many people that need to detox more frequently, and they need to be even more aware of the incoming load. The solution to pollution is dilution. If you don't ingest the toxic load, you don't burden the system with more toxins.
Mhm.
If you have a weak genetic system in the area of detox and you're taking in that toxic load, that's the person or that's the constitution that's going to go down the quickest and the fastest and have more adverse side effects and potentially end up with that big ooga booga called cancer. So
Mm.
if we know that, we can set an individual up for success, in their young years and keep them away from a lot of the hardships and the doctor visits and the ear infections and the sore throats and the runny nose and,
Mm.
the colickiness and all the GI stuff that gets labeled as IBS. And really, it's our
Mhm.
nutrition.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's kind of like that is your, and that's what you have control over too. I mean, you don't have control over what you were blessed with genetically, but you do have control over what you put in your mouth.
Yet, how many people have ever come to you with a fork and said, "Here, eat this"?
Many as a kid, right?
Yeah, yeah, as a kid, yes,
Yeah.
as a kid, yeah, through our growing years. But as an adult, we're the ones that make those decisions
Exactly.
every single day.
Exactly. Exactly. And so the fast food industry is a multi-billion dollar industry because people want it simple and easy.
And they're brilliant at the marketing with the right amount of sweetness, the right amount of saltiness, the right amount of savoriness, and it really does create an addiction. It's harder to break that food addiction off the brain, off the system, than it is crack cocaine. Now, why would that be? You can leave your friends and the party with from crack cocaine, but you have to eat every single day. We go to the grocery store 2 and 3 and 4 times a week. All the advertising, all the marketing, it's in every aisle. If the lines are long, you're marketed with all these sweet treats just until you get to the checkout line. So if you make it through the grocery store without putting something in your buggy that you didn't intend to pick up going in, that's a win.
Right? Right. And obviously, we've all, and maybe people haven't heard this, but you want to stay on the periphery, obviously, of the stores because that's where the fruit is and the vegetables are and the meat and not all of the chemical induced, and sweets and the chips and the pop and everything is in the middle, right?
That's right. And still, even when you're on the periphery, be a label reader. Turn that
Mhm.
label over and look at all of the ingredients. If one of the top five ingredients is sugar, put it back on the shelf. Make a different choice. If there's an ingredient in something that you pick up periphery or in the internal component of the grocery store If you can't understand it or pronounce it and you don't know what it is, can you imagine what your liver feels like or what your organs are going through or what your vessels are doing with that,
Mm.
you know, foreign entity?
Right. Well, and when you look at, it was interesting because my husband and I were looking at um, trying to figure out even like to have like a cracker or that doesn't have canola oil as the first ingredient is very hard to find.
Absolutely. And when we look at lab work or lab values, the majority of people will be very overrun with those omega 6s, and
Mm,
they will have oxidized lipids in their blood levels, and it's because not only of the seed oils, that's one thing, but of also because of all of the sugary things that we take into the system. It makes those particles very small, very toxic, like a free radical, if you will.
hmm. Right. So, what are I've been told, and you can correct me and share obviously with the audience, the oils that are the safest is my understanding is avocado and olive oil. And there's a third one.
Macadamia nut oil
Maybe.
is right up
Okay.
there at the top of the list.
Coconut. What about
Avocado.
coconut?
Yeah.
Avocado, coconut,
Yeah,
and
coconut is very it is a saturated fat. So we do have to be a little bit careful with that one, especially if that shows up in the genetics. The majority of people tolerate the monounsaturated fats, which is the ones that you just mentioned, olive oil, avocado, macadamia nut. Those are monounsaturated fats, and the system likes those. When we start talking about polyunsaturated fats, or saturated fats, too much of that can become inflammatory in different systems quickly.
so when you talk about the seed oils, what seeds are we talking?
It can be any of like safflower, sunflower, corn oil,
Mm,
canola oil. I mean, you mentioned it right off the list. You turn the label over and you can hardly buy anything without those seed oils in them. Well, why would that be? Well, they're very cheap to manufacture,
okay. Yeah.
and the oils keep things moist.
Right. Right. That's interesting because they kind of manipulate us to that we don't know what like the sunflower is not good and you don't they manipulate that. So you're thinking, "Oh, I'm safe because it's not canola, it's sunflower."
Exactly. And just extracting the oil from a plant can
Hmm.
be much like extracting the juice from a fruit or a vegetable. It takes a lot of the fruit or a vegetable to get one glass of juice.
Right.
You also have to think about it takes a lot of the whole food, the olives, the avocados, the macadamia nuts to make the oil. So
Hmm.
the caloric consumption of what we're taking in is very, very high when we're adding extra oils to our system, where we could be just eating the raw form of the food.
Okay. So how do you cook? What would you recommend people to do when they're cooking? Using butter or what? Obviously, the three oils that we talked about, is that what you would recommend?
So it's going to depend upon the heat point. Of course, coconut oil handles the highest amount of heat.
Okay.
Olive oil is also good thing to cook with. You're going to want to use it at a lower heat, and everything else is kind of somewhere in between.
Okay.
But those are
Okay.
those are the two that well, we cook mainly with olive oil, avocado, macadamia, and coconut oil.
Okay.
Coconut having the highest heat point without denaturing the oil.
Okay. All right. Good. So that is obviously the first step when you're cooking is to know what to start with when you need something like that to cook with.
Yeah, and be easy on it. The pan doesn't need a lot of oil, especially if you're sautéing vegetables. Remember, there's moisture in food, and
Hmm.
it's just to get the recipe started or to keep the pan from sticking and adding a little bit of flavor, but don't oversaturate your food with the oil.
Right. Right. So we are going into this holiday season, and well, how about, the traditional turkey? Not, and it's obviously a choice, like you said, which is great, and it only happens once a year. Um, what do you suggest between the potatoes and sweet potatoes and the, the traditional turkey dinner, when it comes to, the gravies and things like that? Because I'm understanding that white potatoes are not very nutritionally dense and aren't very good for us.
I mean, definitely the glycemic index of a white potato is different than a sweet potato.
Right.
And a person who has a lot of weight on their frame is going to tolerate, any kind of complex carbohydrate differently because they're already dysregulated in their metabolism. So if we can minimize the exposure to that, we're going to stay ahead of the game in terms of, body composition optimization, keeping our visceral fat under control, keeping our joint pain and otherwise our blood sugars in balance. So being mindful of those glycemic foods is really, really important. Now, when we cook a Thanksgiving meal, of course, turkey, I love to cook. It's a passion of mine. I'm not such a fan of the cleanup, but I love to cook. The smell in the house, the
Yes.
flavors on the table, just the enjoyment of family around the table is just a wonderful thing. So we'll cook up a big turkey. We'll cook up a quinoa dressing,
Hmm.
or not dressing, a quinoa stuffing,
Stuffing.
a light gravy. You can make a light gravy, and you don't always have to just smatter the mashed potatoes with a whole lot of gravy. Just, enough to taste it, enough to enjoy it, and just watch your portion sizes. Keep them small, remembering that your stomach is the size of your fist.
Hmm.
So when you sit down to the meal and you just have a conscious awareness of the pressure that you're putting on your system, chew your food. Your stomach doesn't have any teeth.
Right.
Enjoy the flavors. Chew it until you turn it into soup and really emulsify it so your body can handle it and tolerate it and not be overstuffed too quickly before that satiation signal even has a chance to catch up to your brain. I mean, it takes 20 minutes for your brain to even know there's food sitting there.
Wow. That's
So
interesting.
less on the plate, and less sugars in the cranberry sauce. There's always a workaround to make anything that you want in a healthy fashion. Leave the brown sugar off the sweet potatoes.
Mm,
Minimize the amount of butter that you put in the mashed potatoes if you're going to do mashed potatoes.
mm.
Use cauliflower rice instead of rice. Learn the swaps around the different food sources so that when you sit down to your big smorgasbord, you can enjoy it and have the experience without all the extra empty loaded calories.
Yeah. And how about the pumpkin pie and the whipped cream, Dr. Michelle?
Well, I mean, there is low calorie whipped cream. There are ways to make that, from coconut milk. There are different alternatives that you can find to make a whipped cream that is very minimal on the sugar. It's very tasty. And the same is true with pumpkin pie. We just need to learn to alter our recipes a little bit, move
Mhm.
away from sugar to some of the sugar alternatives. It might take a time or two for you to experiment with what your taste buds can handle. But if you want to crack out one piece of, pumpkin pie, go for it. It's the choice that you're making in the moment. Remember, your stomach is the size of your fist, and if you're going to eat it, go for a walk after your meal. You
Absolutely.
know, or go for two. Go for one right after your meal and one before you go down for rest at night, so that you're actually moving blood and oxygen and nutrients through your tissues, and it's not just sitting in your stomach like a big ball of uh, undigested matter.
Right. Right. That's so good. It's like start the day with the exercise that day on Thanksgiving and finish it after dinner with another walk around the block or two to increase your metabolism so your body will not be just sitting there with a half a turkey in your gut.
That's right. Be proactive around your choice so
Yeah.
that you don't feel ashamed, you don't feel guilty, you know what you're doing, you're walking into it fully prepared, and the next day you just can get back up onto your regular daily routine, your exercise, your lifestyle, modified behaviors, your supplementation, and then of course your stress management.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you're excited that they're doing the Make America Healthy Again since you've been doing that since you were in your teens.
Oh, absolutely. And even in mainstream medicine, back in the early days, I was called a witch doctor because it was such a passion for me to help people get well. It's like, well, nutrition doesn't work, supplements don't work, but the body doesn't run off drugs, it runs off nutrients. And if we become nutrient deficient, cells just don't operate correctly. They don't turn over correctly. We don't heal correctly. And at the end of the day, that equals chronic disease. And we live with these things called adult toys.
Mm,
Walkers,
mm,
wheelchairs,
mm.
crutches, canes, and pills.
Yes, and I would think that most people would rather have different toys than the ones you've just mentioned.
I bet that would be 100%.
Right, right. And what a great just sharing of how to prepare for the Thanksgiving, which is our next obviously holiday where you'll be with family hopefully and be enjoying what you have to be grateful for. And we have a lot to be grateful today, and obviously making a decision and remembering that. I think my huge takeaway is the fact that I never really put the 1 + 1 together to make 2, meaning that my fist is as big as my stomach. And so when you sit down and you look at your plate and it's much bigger, it's like bigger than your head. We've got a situation on aisle 5, and you
That's
might want to
exactly right.
bring it in.
Reel it in.
Yeah.
Even if you have to write it down the day before, so you go into it fully prepared.
Exactly. And so thank you for this, just this preparation into Thanksgiving and what we can do to not feel absolutely miserable at the end of the night because we've eaten too much and we've sat on the couch and just watched football all day instead of getting up and walking. So those are some great tips, and I just appreciate you and all that you share with us to help us to make better decisions, even through the holiday season where we don't have to just totally starve ourselves from those traditions, but to just make better choices. So thank you, Dr. Michele, for all that you do. I appreciate you so much. And everyone needs to go to sherwood.tv for the Kingdom Fuel, for the supplements, for the detox, for the education that you can take upon yourself, and follow Dr. the Sherwoods, both Michele and Mark, on Set Yourself Free, because they are here every month to speak truth and life into you. So God bless you. I appreciate you. And don't forget to follow us on Rumble, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram. We are on every platform, and follow Katie Huff Ministries at katy-huff.com. So God bless you, Michele. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Yeah. Thumbs up for Katie Huff Ministries.
Oh, God bless you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries, and I am coming to you today to encourage you to put 2024 as your best year ever. And how are you going to do that? By putting your health and healing as your #1 priority. How do you do that? You go to officialsynapse.com. and you go to where it says free consult, free discovery call. It's free. This people at Synapse are amazing. They're going to get you on the road to health and healing in 2024. And so again, it's free. Go to officialsynapse.com and click on that free discovery call and make 2024 your best year ever. God bless you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries, and this is Bella Jean, and we're coming to you today to talk to you about setting yourself free by having first a great night's sleep. How's that going to happen? By using My Pillow. My Pillow has incredible products. Bella Jean even has her own dog bed and loves it. She sleeps well at night, so do we. Because we also have the topper, we have the pillows, we've used the sheets, we have the towels, and we even have the slippers. So we are a family that loves My Pillow as much as my Bella Jean, and I'm hoping that your dog will love it as much as ours, and that you'll go to mypillow.com/unmasked. Again, that's mypillow.com/unmasked, and you'll get incredible discounts for your family to be setting themselves free to having a great night's sleep and having an amazing holiday season with My Pillow products. Thank you.